Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin Bubble news channel. Then you'll see a list of Bitcoin banks. The Bitcoin Bank Cash App is one of them. You can keep your Bitcoin safe at Fidelity, Coinbase, Standard Chartered, and other places, and iDig and Anchorage. They are going to be Bitcoin banks. There are likely to be 10,000, 20,000, or 50,000 Bitcoin banks. It will be 22,000, 20,000, 200,000, 200,000, $2 million, and $20 million on average for each purchase. You might see the smallest deals or million fiat terms at some point. There will be a huge number of choices on Layer 2. There will be a huge number of choices for Layer 3. There will come a time when you know as long as anyone with an iPhone can buy, sell, and send Bitcoin right away on their phone. American businessman and developer Michael Saylor is currently the executive chairman of MicroStrategy, a business intelligence and software company in Virginia called MicroStrategy adopted a Bitcoin standard in August 2020. They started by buying $250 million worth of Bitcoin. They did this because they were worried about the constant devaluation of fiat currencies and other global macroeconomic factors. Since then, MicroStrategy has continued to increase the amount of Bitcoin they hold. A new Twitter post from Saylor MicroStrategy says that they bought an extra 11,931 Bitcoin for about $786 million using the money from convertible notes and extra cash. Each Bitcoin was bought for about $65,100, bringing MicroStrategy's overall Bitcoin holdings to 222,300 BTC at an average price of $36,700.19 per Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin's price has dropped from a high of over $73,000 in March to where it is now $61,800. Saylor is still positive about the future of Bitcoin. He dreams of a time when Bitcoin will be the main currency used in the world's economy and banking system. After the current paper monetary system falls apart, Saylor is sure that Bitcoin's real scarcity will become clear. It will be used by institutions and sovereign countries all over the world because it is backed by the world's most powerful computer network. He thinks that Bitcoin will be widely used all over the world. Ongoing work to improve the Bitcoin network so that it can handle more features and, most importantly, fast price gains. As Saylor says, Bitcoin is a transformative object that will change the world as we know it. That's going to get a lot of views. Then there are 330 million businesses in the world, and you know a few of them. Apple is one of the most important companies in the world. 1 billion people depend on them. When Apple comes across Bitcoin, there's a chance that Apple will look at Bitcoin and think, wait a minute. Bitcoin multi-signature cloud, what if we turn the Apple Watch into a signing device and put it together with the iPhone and the laptop's third signing device? Then we do something with the cloud and Apple turns into a bank. A lot of valuable things are stored there, and we keep them safe with the Apple Cloud. I guess Google will feel differently if Apple does that. We don't want Apple to do that. We want Android to do that, and Samsung will eventually say, wait a minute. Samsung phones run Android, and we can add the security feature to that. We'll take a different view, and Qualcomm will eventually say, wait a minute. The chips that are used in these phones come from us, and maybe our chip, it's possible that your chip doesn't have a Bitcoin miner or that it should have a safe way to store your cryptographic keys so that it can be the right signing device. Then you'll have all the Chinese companies, and the Chinese government will say, maybe we don't want Apple and Google to do this, we want our companies, Huawei, to do this, so you'll have all the Chinese companies. Governments are going to be made. It will look at it. There will be businesses that take a look. There will be other companies like Block that will say they want to be better than Apple or Google. So Block will ship the BitKey and add Bitcoin support to the Cash App. Block will do all of this in the US, but not in China. Some company in China will then think, maybe we can just copy what Block does and do it in China. This will work for them because the Chinese government will probably make it hard for an American company to do it. What does an American business do in China? Some people will then say, well, I don't want to trust a company when I buy a coal card, a treasurer, or a ledger. You trust the company. So what do you mean that you don't trust it? I'm not going to trust the business to keep my keys safe. So what are you going to do? I'm going to buy one of those steel plate, titanium plates and hit my keys on it. Okay, how are you going to get that shipped to you? Okay, I'll FedEx it and put it in a bank safe deposit box. I trust that company. That's a different business, right? Some people will say, I don't trust that company, but I trust this, or I trust myself, and that will change over time, right? I really believe in what ways does Bitcoin grow. You'll definitely end up with a list of things. That kind of self-control on the bottom, there are people who believe in Bitcoin as much as possible, especially those with a lot of Bitcoin, and they will self-custody it. After that, you'll see a list of Bitcoin banks. The Bitcoin Bank is Cash App. Bitcoin banks will be Fidelity and Coinbase. Standard Chartered and other managers will also hold Bitcoin. They will hold Bitcoin and be Bitcoin banks. You'll probably see 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 Bitcoin banks. They'll start providing extra services. It's possible that you'll trade, earn, get credit, or just buy and sell stock. So I think you'll see a rise in layer 2s and layer 3s. The deals on layer 1 are going to get bigger. I don't think Bitcoin can handle $22 deals. Half of the transactions will be $220 million, which is twice as much as the average transaction amount now. In a certain point, you may come across deals worth 1 million fiat units. You'll see that the transactions on the base layer get a lot bigger. In Bitcoin terms, who knows? It looks like the fees will go up and the block awards will go down. There will be a huge number of choices on layer 2. There will be a huge number of choices for layer 3. There will come a time when you know as long as anyone with an iPhone can buy, sell, and send Bitcoin right away on their phone, yes, that layer 3 network might see 1 billion transfers every day. Also, how will that work with Google and everything else? Who knows? I believe there would be 4s. To help Bitcoin grow, ETFs are being used right now. What does an ETF mean? You know that an ETF is kind of like Bitcoin. I feel like I could send you a piece of IBIT. They make between $500 million and $1 billion a day in transaction fees. Around $250 billion to $300 billion worth of trades happen every year on the EBIT network. So if I told you I had an app that would let people pay $300 billion, you might think that was a big deal. Some people don't like certain kinds of scales. They'll say, I know some Bitcoiners don't like the idea that money is moving into ETFs, but I think that 95% of the economy has benefited from the ETF's arrival. Has gone to Bitcoiners who don't have ETFs and don't agree with them. If you disagree with the ETF and didn't buy one, you made 20 times as much money in the last 5 months as people who did buy one. This means that if your enemy gave you 20 times as much money, everyone won. Are they really against you? That doesn't look right, does it? Bitcoin went from 30,000 to 70,000. People who don't like ETFs are the ones who make money. If you look very closely, I think 95% of Bitcoin isn't in ETFs. Yeah, there are probably 1 million Bitcoins in ETFs, but there were 650,000 Bitcoins in Grayscale before ETFs, so there's probably only 1% of Bitcoin that has net flown into the ETFs. However, the price of Bitcoin has doubled, which is worth $700 billion, so if I were to look at that, I'd say that $693 billion of economic